This is, yeah. It needed to be recorded, this reaction of how ridiculous this moment is. We're all set up. We're all ready to go. Ada and I know where we're going with this episode, and I hit end meeting as opposed to record. What? Hey, friends. We are fearless. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Frances Young, and I have Ada back with me as a guest today. And you just witnessed us being real in this moment of just Mercury pre-shadow. Before we get to this episode, I would really love for you to know what your human design energy type is so that you can follow along with what we're talking about, whether it's an episode with a guest or it's the Fearless Shorts. You're going to go to my website, www.thefearlessprojectltd.com. You're going to input some information, and it's going to spit out something that looks a little weird. Yeah, that is called a human design body graph. It's going to tell you 3 important things that today I hope that you go forth into the rest of life, understanding what energy type means, strategy, and authority. And if not, just keep listening to the podcast. I can't wait for you to see what we talk about, what I talk about, and maybe get a laugh or two. So without further ado, I'm trying to be candid and laugh. Ada, what's going through your moment in your head with this? Just laughing at myself.
Oh my God. It's my fault. The moon's in my 8th house. I did this. Moon's
in 8th. Emotional capacity has gone out the window and things are going to die randomly. That's all I think about with 8th house is death. It sounds so morbid, but anyways. Welcome to a podcast episode where Ada and myself are going to go nerdy on the intersections of astrology and human design to recap our audience on a moment of who Ada is and what the This Fearless Life podcast is about. Ada Pembroke is the creator and owner of the Narrative Astrology Lab. She is a professional astrologer and a very dear friend. And Ada, just say some other things about you to give the audience another moment of who Ada is.
I am a writer. My background was in writing and publishing before I became an astrologer. I was working on a novel about a medieval astrologer when I discovered astrology. I thought I was going to give myself 6 months to learn everything there was to know about medieval astrology so that I could write it in an accurate way. 5 years later, the novel was still unwritten. We're talking about the depths of human design and astrology today. And I know firsthand how easy it is to think that you're stepping into a puddle when you're starting to study astrology. And then you look up and all of a sudden you are 1,000 miles out to sea and you cannot see land anymore.
Yes. Oh my God, that's a great analogy. Ada, you are a beautiful writer, and just the way when I hear you speak about it just makes it feel so wholesome, and your own personal astrology of what is in your chart rings so true of the way that you speak and how it's just so beautiful. We won't go down those rabbit holes, but that's just how much I see and appreciate and love the way that you use astrology as a means to, one, do the work that you love to do, provide a service to the world, and just all around cool human. That's all I got on that moment.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. The reason why we have this podcast, at least in season 2, This Fearless Life is taking new directions. We're seeing where we morph on conversations around health, astrology, human design, because it's a big, wide world out there. There's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of talk in spiritual communities as a whole, or when I walk down the street and I go into a cafe and I start working and people start talking about their zodiac signs behind the bar. That didn't happen 10 years ago.
Nope.
No, it's a conversation that's worth having to see who, one, hears it, two, wants to go down any astrology or human design rabbit hole. Today, Ada and I do have some planned things that we're going to talk about, because this is an episode that combines astrology and human design. If you're an astrologer or a human design nerd, this one is up your alley. You know that there are a few more people in the world that are obsessed with their astrology. So let's get them obsessed with human design, Ada.
Yes.
And we'll see where we go. You hit me with the questions. Let's do this.
Okay. In astrology, there are steps that people take when they're learning their astrology. First, they learn their sun signs. And then the next step after that is learning your big 3, your sun, your moon, and your ascendant. It's a little bit heretical, but I think the vast majority of people could probably stay at the level of big 3 and just go deeper and deeper and deeper for their entire lives. Even if they don't go any further with astrology, they will be more self-aware. They will just be better humans, because I think that everybody needs astrology. My question is, what is the human design equivalent of the big 3? If there were 3 elements of your human design chart, that if you're stuck on a desert island and you can only bring 3 elements of your human design chart with you, what are the 3 that you think people should bring? What are those foundational parts of a human design chart?
Yeah. Amazing. This type of question is what I try to distill to every single person that's on the street. If I open my mouth and somehow human design comes out, or I say I'm an energy worker and they're like, how do you work with energy? I'm like, well, one facet is human design. This is my elevator pitch. I love the desert island thing, though, because the big 3 in human design are the backbone, in the way that our big 3 that you laid out beautifully in astrology, Ada, are so necessary to life, to us understanding the system. If you are listening to this, if you're a human design reader or nerd, or you've been down those rabbit holes long enough that they could agree to disagree with what I am going to say is the big 3 is to me. I was debating it in my brain before we started recording. But for me, if we did not know anything else but these 3 things out of our human design graph, this is what we would need in order to operate. If we only knew our sun, our moon, and our ascendant, we would be able to survive and give someone a breadth of a reading. 100%. To get to my point, I just wanted to iterate that aspect because we could argue it all day. First thing, our energy type. Our energy type in human design is essentially like our sun. It is our identity. It is a little bit where, now in this moment, I'll just say where the ego could reside of what I am. I see myself as energy. Our energy types are generator, manifester, manifesting generator, projector, and reflector. If you're one of those 5, because we all are, that is our energy type. It's how your body is getting up and chugging along like Timothy the Tank Engine, how it wants to do X, how it wants to interact with food. Ada and I are both generators. Let's just have a moment to talk about an energy type. How we would talk about I am a Leo sun and Ada is a Taurus sun, our identity. Being a generator is fucking cool. Once you get into understanding juiciness of us, Ada has the best reaction to me talking about this moment. Because once you realize it and you start to like feel into what that juicy thing means, I can't wait to hear what comes out of Ada's mouth about me like talking about generators in this way. Is then you realize, oh my God, when I am in my light and my experience of this energy and identity, I fucking love this. I actually don't want to be any other energy. How does all of those nuggets sound about being the first fundamental thing?
Yeah, so when I learned that I was a generator, this whole thing just seems to be part of my story with astrology and human design. I don't know if it's the fact that I have 3 Aries placements or what, but whenever I learn something new about myself in those systems, my first response is always rage. Every single time. When
Right.
I learned that I was a generator, I was like, what? Because the second fact that I learned about generators, other than the fact that I was one, was that 70 or 80% of the population is generators.
It's
And I
literally,
was like,
we all get told. Yeah.
so I have Leo rising in Aquarius moon, and telling me that I am part of 70 or 80% of anything is the best way to get me angry.
Like the biggest
Yes,
fuck you. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But the way that you were talking about how wonderful it is, I just had this moment now that I know more about what it means to be a generator, where I was like, maybe so many of us are generators because when we were standing up and building our human design charts before we were born, when we were hanging out in the bardo, maybe 70 or 80% of us were like, this is the best one. So I'm going to take.
This one is the most excited. This one is the most in your face. The cool thing about generators, also for those that don't know, to just give you a snapshot of something that you can think about in life, is there are a lot of famous people that we know in the world that are generators, just like any other human. They aren't, in air quotes, any more special than anyone else. Elon
Oh, yeah.
Musk is a generator. Oprah Winfrey is a generator. Jennifer Lopez is a generator. When someone, any energy, it's in its most authentic moment of how it is just moving through its life, a generator draws people to them when they are in their most juicy awesomeness place. I can't help but move when I talk about it because I'm a big mover. Generators, there's a reason why there are so many of us. And all of the shitty facts about us, or what we could say are shitty facts, is that there's so many of us, so we're not special, the way we flip it on its head, or we are the workhorses. So why are we doing all the work? There's supposed to be lots of us on purpose because we're this awesome. When we're lit up and juicy, we're making good energy for everyone else. Why wouldn't we want lots of that?
Of course. And we need it right now.
We need
We
it.
need it. The darker the times, the more we need the light.
100%. We just need a mic drop moment in that spot. If you knew that you were a generator on a desert island, I would want that generator to make a big fire and start a fire dance and have some fun.
Yeah.
That's what a generator would do. Knowing your energy type, I would do that. Knowing your energy type, whatever you are, just the essence of its aura. And most people don't like to be told what they are. We don't like to be
Mhm.
shown a mirror in front of our face, let alone be told this is your energy. So do you resonate with it? Just like when you figure out whatever sun sign and you start being told that, oh, but this is how this sun comes across, or those types of the behind closed doors, but that immediately get opened. The second thing, and what to assimilate to, what is the moon's equivalent in the big three, and what is the ascendant's equivalent in the big three in human design. This is where interpretation is everyone's oyster. But I'm going to say that our strategy, how our energy, so myself and Ada as generators, how our energy itself in the moment is going to interact with something in the world. This is how the generator operates physically. What is going on internally? That to me is our ascendant, because our ascendant is how we are seen. So this is how energy is reacting back to us. This is how internally something is going on for then to us do in the world that is seeing us acting this way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So our strategy is our ascendant to me. And our strategy as a generator, because we're on the generator topic, is to respond.
That also made me mad, by the way.
Oh, the responding?
Yep. The
Yeah.
fact that I have to wait around like a Victorian dame at the ball for somebody to choose me.
Yeah, let's go out into the world and cause some shit. I want to be in the middle of the dance floor, damn it. I know.
Absolutely.
Aries moon is like, fuck you. I want to take initiation. God damn it. I can go send a million emails. Why won't they reach out? Oh, because it's okay that I'm being the one that's being proactive in the way that the world tells me to be proactive. The right one will come back to me. Kind of like a strategy for a projector, just to say another one. They have to wait for the invitation. They're allowed to send the emails, but if the email isn't coming back, don't keep pushing down that track to give your opinion to that person who's not responding to you. Stop.
Yeah.
Wasting your energy. Strategy is, in my view, related to the ascendant and how the world sees us. What we are putting out, we are getting back. If we are putting out an energy of openness as a generator, satisfaction as a generator, we are going to get the things that there's a bazillion things that we could be responding to. We're just picking up on the ones that we're meant to be interacting with next. This is what I've been playing with in my brain lately about generators and responding. You'll hear some people speak about it in this way. I have learned human design through Jenna Zoe and the My Human Design, let's just say network, to give it a name. I've heard Jenna speak about responding numerous times, let alone in the lectures that I have learned from her. Now I feel so much more today as I'm even saying it to us and how I'm looking at every generator asks, what do I respond to next? There's literally every single thing in our day that is coming to us is an option to interact with, to respond to. We don't have to wait on our couch. Same for a projector. They don't have to wait on their couch for an invitation. They are meant to go out into the world when they've got the energy to go see who and what energy is going to interact with them. That's waiting for the invitation because not everything is going to come at you. Reflectors, they have to have those moments of just being with themselves and noticing what feels right in the environment. They've got a lot more intel and a lot more time to the way that their system wants to operate, to be surprised and feel that life is just unfolding for them. It's very different for a reflector. Strategy is ascendant to me. How does that resonate for you, Ada?
It makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not mad about it anymore. And
that's good.
The reason I stopped being mad about it was something that you said.
I'm excited to hear because I'm like, there are a lot of things that I say about human design. So what's one crazy thing that stuck about strategy for you that I said?
So the thing that generators tend to get angry about with the strategy is exactly what you were saying a moment ago. There's this assumption that when we say you're supposed to be responding, that you're not supposed to be doing anything to put yourself in the position to be able to respond to things, which is madness. People hear it and they immediately think, oh, I'm supposed to sit on my couch and people are magically supposed to show up.
Mm-hmm.
But you said that if you are in the wrong environment, you're not going to get the right things to respond to. And so your advice is diametrically opposed to where people initially go, where they're like, oh, okay, I have to shut down everything. And it's like, no, 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 no. You have to get into the right environment in order to have the right opportunities coming for you. For me, my environment is a marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm sitting on my couch watching the same Netflix episode over and over and over again, that is as far away from a marketplace as you can possibly be. Whereas if I put myself in a position where there are things coming at me, ideas coming at me, and I'm interacting with people and I'm able to have those serendipitous experiences, then it makes sense to respond. I'm trying to make a connection between the sun and the ascendant and shining through this idea that responding means that you have to be completely passive and never leave your bed. Generators are supposed to have energy for a reason. If things aren't coming to you, then you need to look to your environment and change things up.
To your environment. And then there are, and I'll play the advocate of the other side of any human needs those reflection moments where they're not in a
Yes.
stimulated environment, regardless, to be okay, what does my body say today? But then you gotta get out and go get messy. The best thing that I always remind myself, no, friend, go get messy today. It's cool. You can do that. Then differentiate what energy is yours and what's not.
Mhm.
To wrap up the big three, that if we only knew out of our human design graph that would allow us to operate, we've got our energy. What is our aura? Who are we? We've got our strategy. So we know how to interact with our environment. Our environment knows how to interact with us already better than we do. That's related to ascendant.
Mhm.
So we're missing the moon. We're missing our emotional capacity. To me, the last thing, and this is the highlight of these other two that I've talked about in human design. I think the reason why I beat it down the bush to people that I talk to as well, is because Jenna Zoe also beats it down the bush, is authority. And authority is how our
Mm.
body makes a decision. Any decision, from when our body's like, go to the bathroom, eat, to when I wake up and get out the door. Ada was posting earlier today on threads about like sleep and sleeping in today. Ada has been doing some beautiful posts lately about Leo risings, partially because she's a Leo rising, but just the musings of Leo season because it's now Leo season. Shout out to my Leos and Leo risings and Leo moons. There was going to be a moment where I know it's going to go there. But our authority, if we didn't know, if our body wasn't in tapped with us to tell us what to do or how to get off the island, when to light a fire in order to potentially have ships or a plane go by or whatever go by in order to see it. Our body is way smarter than we give it credit. Our emotions relating it to our moon are way smarter than we give it credit, even when we're really annoyed or in an emotional state that's like, why do I have emotions? We have our authority in order, let's put in this moment, to air quotes, save us, to keep us alive. So, of course, authority has to be in the big three of what I would need to know if all I needed to know in human design was my energy, my strategy, and my authority, just like my sun, my moon, and my ascendant or rising. People would argue potentially that profile is something that is super important to know in human design. I don't discredit the fact that profile is super important to know, but it's not essential to life. So that's how I was able, for me, to distill these three as the big three of human design. We could go even deeper into those topics. I know we can. But what's our second question today, Ada?
Okay, so one of the things I know about human design is that astrology is one of the components of human design. But I am really struggling to translate my astrological knowledge into human design. How do I find the astrology in my human design chart?
I love this question. I did the reverse. I'll do my own side tangent story as we start to unpack this question. I got into astrology back in 2020 before I knew about human design. I am still, for both systems of astrology and human design, a noob. We're only 4 years in. I can't wait for the rest of my life and how deep this will go. But I was entering my Saturn return, my first Saturn return, at the beginning of 2020, just before COVID. Some things I responded to on the internet of social media posts of being like, I think I need to learn about this because I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Saturn return is concerning. I don't know what that means, but it's concern. Our body is giving me alarm bells and making me decide my authority. I'm gut authority. I went down the rabbit holes of starting to just speak to astrologers and tarot readers about my personal life and what I was starting to go through at the time. Long story short, that was about 2 years of me doing that before I actually was shown what human design was, I didn't even do my first astrology course, everyone, until last year in 2023, just so people know. But yet I'd started to be in this world and knowledge, etc. Learned the system of human design pre to really understanding what orbs were, or how to talk about an opposition, or how to read even my own personal birth natal chart before I would even give an astrology reading to a client. I loved when Ada was like, let's talk about this, because the translation is there. And the deeper that I go on understanding human design and the astrological placements as well, is that as soon as I know, say, what someone's number is for their Saturn, I'm immediately in my brain trying to place that on a natal chart. What house is that in relating the two and correlating such a bonkers looking graph to a circular chart that also looks bonkers, you know? That's my winded story of how do we figure out these two things. We talked about the sun, the moon, and the rising. The biggest thing with strategy showing up on a human design body graph, when we look at 9 triangles and squares and lines and numbers everywhere, on someone's human design graph, you won't specifically see, oh, this is where the sun was coming over the horizon. You won't actually, in that moment, potentially be able to tell what someone's ascendant is. That doesn't directly correlate graph to graph. But the two main things that we can start to look at right away, if you're an astrologer and you see a human design graph and you're like, why and how are they so similar, is looking at someone's sun and moon sign, the numbers that are associated as a human design gift that are related to the Kabbalah and I Ching. Those two numbers, and I'll give an example. My Leo sun is, I have been given gift 29 for my human design sun gate. And my moon is an Aries moon. And that means it's in my 10th house with me being a Cancer rising. I happen to be given, of the Aries gifts, gift 7 out of the 64 I Ching gates. So on someone's human design graph, depending on the type of graph and PDF you're looking at of where you've gotten whatever down in the wormholes of the internet, you will see 2 sides of numbers along this like beautiful 9 triangled squared moment. All of the numbers that are on, I'm going to put in air quotes, like the right-hand side, they're usually a darker number to most systems, or a black. The sun is at the very top. Then you've got Earth, got North Node, South Node, and then usually Moon is the next one. Looking at those 2 numbers to begin with, if you're an astrologer and looking at your human design graph, is the best place to look and to just draw, what do I think of these numbers? What is this correlation to where and what degree my sun and my moon are on my natal chart? Because we know that the degrees of where we are, I know exactly where I'm going with this thought, Ada. The degrees of where our sun is on our natal chart really speaks to how I come across as a Leo. So in this moment, I'm going to use a direct example. I had a gentleman on my podcast. His name is Michael Lennox. He's an astrologer. He's a dream expert and interpreter. He's a psychologist. The guy's fucking awesome. Michael, I love you. In another life, we would probably live in the same town and be best friends. Anyways, he is a Leo. We actually have the same sun gate, but he is literally on the last few hours cusp of Leo. His Leo is in the 29th degree. He also then does happen to have number 29, just like me, as his sun gate. But I don't have the 29th degree because I'm born a few days before him. I am born with the 24th degree of Leo. However, in relation to how close I am to him of the numbers of days and that degrees, I still get 29 as my sun gate. This also brings in some other nerdiness of speaking about earlier, mentioning profile. My profile is closer to the first day of what could be considered this 29 sun gate moment. But my birth natal chart says 24th degree. But my profile is 1-3. Go to Michael's profile. He's a 6-2. I think he's a 6-2 or 6-3. He's one of the two. But at the 29th degree of Leo season, with still number 29. But the way in which our energy, we very much are all in on life, he's got a different vibe in which he's experienced it because his degree is different from his birth natal chart. That was a cool rabbit hole. What?
That was a very cool rabbit hole. It sounds like you're saying gates in human design, these areas that you're talking about, are 6 Sundays long
Roughly, yeah.
or 6 degrees. If you were born at the beginning of the gate, you would probably have a 1 as your first number. And then, okay. And then, so as you go through the 6, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And then the thing is that depending on the time of day and then relation to your ascendant, what your ascendant ends up being, I've looked at my day that I was born. I've looked at the potentials of energy types that I could have been at the moment of my birth. It could have either been, I think, just a projector or generator on my day, but the variance on profile was the big aspect of the day. I am born in the middle of the night. I'm a 2:50 a.m. So this could have also some deeper correlation that I personally have not done the research on. But say you're born in the middle of the night, the potential of you maybe being a right angle cross, which I am a 1-3, a smaller number, and then a larger number. My life path is about Fran, but that serves the collective. In this moment, I also can't even remember the time of day that Michael was born. For some reason, I think it's around 4 o'clock. I'm going to check it later, tell y'all in the notes that if I was right or not. Bullshit I like to remember. Again, because his birthday, it was the 21st or 22nd of August, right on the cusp of Virgo. As to what time of day Sun moved into Virgo, the year that he was born, he is still 29th gate because he's the 29th degree of Leo, but has a 6-3 or 6-2 profile. And to continue to draw back to your question of, I'm an astrologer, but how do I read human design? How do I figure out that my Mercury means this and this? Looking at your gates and looking at your placements of where all of the planets are in your birth chart, just those two things, before even worrying about where the numbers are and what centers they're in, is a perfect place to see if the narrative of Mercury and Leo in this place with this particular opposition or square, does this resonate with the number that I happen to see on my human design graph? Because one, it will. I can tell you that right now. If your birth time is correct, it will. And two, that's still a narrative of how we look at our natal chart. The language of what the 64 gates and I Ching mean and Kabbalah mean in human design as these pillars that help us learn more and understand why we do certain things, why we speak in certain ways, why we have certain values, and particularly bring out these words of Venus is values, speaking is Mercury, Pluto is how do you transform things. To give an example, my Pluto in my human design is gift 43. Gift 43 in human design is in I know the channel that it's connected. The channel with 43 and 23 is between the ajna and the throat. Ada happens to have this one as well. 43 is opinion. 23 is clarity. 43 is an essence of an opinion, but you're really clear on your opinion because there's a few gifts that speak about opinion. Pluto being at that gift for me, my opinions I know are transformative. I know they break barriers. I know, like seeing this correlation of a planet and the gift I've been given.
Yes.
Beautiful place to begin when you're like, how do I look at this? I feel like I just blew a light bulb for you.
No, it's perfect. That is exactly what I wanted to know, but I didn't know enough. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And this is one of those moments.
Yeah.
And I've had this instinct, which I think gets into my third question for you, that I should be looking at my planets and my gifts. And I haven't known why. And I think that you just explained the reason why. So the question that I have is, I know that this is the next step for me with human design. Where do I go to learn about my gifts? What do you have any resources? Are there resources you would recommend? What should my source
100%.
text for this be?
Honestly, the best, even though it's the deepest realm, I'm recently like back into it because it feels like, Fran, you need to say your words on all of this. Okay, this is Ada, this is the idea. Long story short, people that are listening to this moment of me being real, that I pulled a tarot card today that was about like ideas. It's solidifying in this moment. I need to record all the gifts, Ada. It's been happening
Yes, you
for a
do.
while. For a resource for any astrologer, they're an astrologer. They know their birth chart. They dive down it every day. Same. And they're looking at their human design and they're still like, how do I apply this to my life? Find a copy of the Gene Keys. Now, I'm currently holding it up for anybody that happens to watch the video, but it's backwards. The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. Richard Rudd, I cannot wait to meet that man in real life. He studied with the gentleman who downloaded Human Design Raw. He created his own system, essentially, but that is mimicking human design because the way in which he writes about these 64 numbers, these gifts, I won't go into fully explaining exactly what the Gene Keys is, but he explains every single one. There's one in here where it's like 20 pages. I think it's gift 55. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm having other light bulbs go off on this moment. Fantastic. Because if you want to learn what your numbers mean to each placement of where your Mercury, where your sun is, this is the truest depth of the knowledge of looking at the shadow or the deep darker sides we don't like understanding about ourselves. It talks about the truest form of that energy or the gift. And then it talks about the enlightenment of that gift, where we are working towards with us being given X energy. These gifts are energy. That's what they are. The Gene Keys is the best place to go. Now, in a year from now, there is going to be written text and recording of myself saying these 64. But in this moment, for the way, yeah, my brain assimilates the knowledge. This is, I mean, I read this with my coffee. It's very deep. I don't recommend reading it right before you go to bed. For me, it needs to be first thing in the morning when I can take in information in a lighthearted way. It's an easy moment to dip in and dip your toes out about learning about more of how something expresses within you with a planet placement and what that means for you.
Beautiful. Perfect.
I love it. Ada, we answered some big questions. I feel like we wrapped them into good nuggets. I know we could talk about them forever.
Yes.
I know. As a wrap up moment, is there anything for you as an astrologer that now that I've been teaching you human design, even though you knew about human design pre to when we met in only November of 2023, that you want to ask me right now? Or I feel like I'm going to ask a question back. Does human design, you were like, I think I know where you might go with this.
No, I have no idea. I just know you should go there.
Okay, sorry, friend, get the fucking question out. The moon is in Pisces, folks. We're just like, we could dream here all day. Now that you have a greater understanding of human design, but you've had such an understanding of yourself through astrology, do you feel like you know yourself better because you know your human design?
Oh, I absolutely do. And it really connects back to go full circle to
Yeah.
what you were talking about in the beginning with the equivalent of the sun, moon, and rising sign. Because astrology is, how do I say this in a nice way? It can be practical,
Mm.
but that isn't its reason for existing. There are some very practical astrologers who focus on practical aspects of astrology. They answer practical questions about what career is best for you. There are medical astrologers, and it's not that you can't be practical and do astrology. I'm a Taurus. I love practicality. I feel as though you have to go really far with astrology before you can get to the practical application.
Mhm.
Whereas you talk to a human designer for 5 minutes and you come away with practical advice. And I feel as though, at the risk of getting overly dramatic and epic, though it's Leo season, so I'm here for it.
Yes.
I feel as though we are in a moment where we just need to get down to brass tacks. We
Yeah.
need to know what to do with information that we get. We're living in a moment where, yes, people say that attention is fleeting and we don't have long attention spans. I think that we don't have long attention spans because we don't have the bandwidth for bullshit.
100. Yeah. Mic drop moment.
And
We've tried all the fucking things, and we can go back in time and use astrology to know that right now we already know that the world is changing. It's been changing for a long
yes,
time, probably since the early 2000s, as a greater global cultural shifts of every aspect of life is really shifting. And now we're
yes,
feeling it. But we've tried it all before. We can predict, but we still don't know what tomorrow holds. So how
yes,
do I, in the practical moment, just listen to what my body is saying when I wake up?
exactly.
Is that
Exactly. And how do you, and this really gets back to your particular work as a human designer, how do you make sure that when you wake up in the morning, you are waking up with maximal energy and you're in the right environment and you are working according to your strategy and you have the energy that you're supposed to have? Generator, energy.
I
And
love it.
so I think that's why we started out talking about desert islands, because I feel like the energy of the moment right now is really a desert island energy. We were all put into our own isolation chamber desert island environments during the pandemic, and we're in the process of trying to come back together.
Mhm.
And human design tells us how to find the energy that we need to swim back to shore, to get off of the island and get back onto the continent and reconnect with everyone.
Mm,
And I think that is really, speaking of gifts, the gift of human design for the moment.
it really is. And Ada, you couldn't have said it better than that. It's amazing. It feels, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday who's, it's a perfect universe moment of, I'm a generator. I'm figuring out how I speak about human design every single day to the world and people. And this person has come across my path. And of course, I've already looked at their chart. Of course, they're a generator. It's quite funny. They speak the language literally that I speak. They just don't have the modality of gene keys and human design in their sphere yet. And I'm like, dude, you're living your energy. And yet now here's another tool. Here you go. So there are so many people that are on this cusp of having this next beautiful tool, along with all of the other self awareness tools that we have and that we've had for hundreds of thousands of years, because astrology, Kabbalah, the I Ching, knowledge of chakra systems, these are not new to people. It has just been repackaged and put together. And now it says human design, and people are like, I don't know what that is. And they're like, oh, do you know what your zodiac sign is? And like, oh, yeah. I'm like, well, I love how my tangent just like is a total Mercury and Leo tangent. Yours is a Mercury and Aries that got a little bit more to the point, and then, the Pisces took hold of me. Yeah. I actually believe that human design is here at this perfect moment to cut the bullshit, Ada, the way
Yes.
that you wrapped that up. And it's still going to take a little bit more of the Humpty Dumpty has got to fall down. Probably, I think a good, this is the first number that wants to pop out of my head, 10 years. Sounds like a long time. We're going to be around for a while, Ada. 10 years is nothing, perfectly honest, for the greater mass population to get it. We're a part of that collective that is an aware community, let alone not even a
Mhm.
spiritual community, an aware community of humans on the planet that's like, I'm done. Give me my ABCs back,
Yes.
please. Okay, we're going to do our little wrap up. Ada, what's one more thing you want to say from my tangent? And then I'll do my wrap up.
Oh gosh, just thank you. This has been an amazing conversation, and I really think that this is going to help people.
I think so too. Maybe this is our podcast. Maybe it's just us talking.
I had that thought too. Let's just put that out there.
Okay. Thank you everyone for listening today. And you got to laugh with us. You got to have the perfect melding of astrology and human design and cutting the bullshit because we know our world is fucked moments, but it's not fucked if we follow our human design. So if you need any astrology readings, please reach out to Ada and the Narrative Astrology Lab. If you're sick and tired of looking and scrolling down Instagram or the internet and seeing the post that says these are the 5 best ways to get abs, hit me up because I'll show you your human design, your energy, your strategy, and authority. And maybe it's going to take you just taking broccoli out of your diet and you will get a 6-pack. I know it sounds crazy, but it might actually work. So magic. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'd like to leave you with a reframe as to how to look at yourself with a little more fearlessness. Once upon a time, I did a meditation. This was a few years ago. Coming out of this meditation, something was very clear from my body. My body told me to fear itself less. You do not have to be afraid of the intuition that your body is speaking to you. You can fear yourself less. You can love yourself more. And I promise you that life is going to show you the rest.